Okay. Welcome everyone to this very special World Environment Day webinar of United Nations to a United Creation. To begin, even before an introduction, we begin with prayer. And so I would request His Holiness Pujaswami Chidanand Saraswati Ji to lead us in a prayer from the Hindu tradition to begin this sacred event.
Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhita Mastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
And I request Chief Rabbi David Rosen to lead us in a prayer from the Jewish tradition.
Thank you, Sadhviji. Shalom to all. The prayer I'm going to recite is taken from the statutory morning service that Jews traditionally recite every day. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, sovereign of the universe, who forms light, darkness, who makes peace and creates all things, who in mercy gives light to the earth and to those that dwell on it, and in your goodness renews creation every day continually. How manifold are your works, O Lord! In wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your creations. O everlasting God, in your abundant mercies, have mercy on us. Lord of our strength, the rock of our stronghold, shield of our salvation, you stronghold of ours. Blessed God, great in knowledge, prepared and formed the rays of the sun, produced goodness as glory to his name. He set the luminaries round about his power. The corners of the earth are holy and exalt the Almighty, continually declaring the glory of God and his holiness. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, for the magnificence of your handiwork, for the luminaries which you have made. They shall glorify you forever. May we be worthy of your gifts and blessings. Amen.
Thank you so much for those beautiful prayers. And as our webinar continues, we will have prayers throughout from our different religious traditions. It's a wonderful honor to be together today, truly coming together from across continents, oceans, and also across races, religions, colors, creeds, caste, and cultures, coming together across all the different sectors of life. The United Nations has offered us these beautiful days, days that are that which are most important to our life. The United Nations began focused on peace and security, but realized that peace must be more than an end to violent conflict. Peace must include ensuring that we have a safe and healthy and sustainable planet. It must include protection and preservation of our natural resources. To protect, to deprive others of clean air, of clean water, is violence. To deprive our future generations of air to breathe, of water to drink, is violence. We cannot have security unless we have sustainability. Mahatma Gandhi said so beautifully, what is the point of going so fast when you're running in the wrong direction? We have focused for far too long on accruing weapons, bombs, missiles, and guns to provide an illusory sense of security. But today, COVID-19 has humbled us all. We have missiles, but no masks. We have guns, but no gloves. The continual amassment of weapons has been a giant leap in the wrong direction. I think about Mother Earth as an exasperated mother who has tried for so many years and decades to teach us, her children, to follow the rules, to take care, to protect, to preserve, to serve, to love. And like any exasperated mother of children who refuse to learn a lesson, she has sent us all to our rooms, locked us up there until we learn the lesson. And today on World Environment Day is an opportunity for us to really ask, have we learned a lesson? Today, on this special day, we come together to celebrate the sacred, divine, life-giving, life-sustaining Mother Earth and Mother Nature. And we pledge to do whatever we can to protect and to preserve it. And this year is focused on biodiversity. And we recognize that sacred and essential thread that each of us, every individual and every species plays in the exquisite tapestry of life. But tragically, up to 150 species are going extinct every day. Do not think that they are dispensable. Rather, each of them is an essential thread in the tapestry of our life, and the loss of even one of them, a small bee, a monarch butterfly, is enough to unravel the entire tapestry. It is our spiritual injunction to live in harmony with all and to realize that we are all one, all humans and all species on this planet. In the Hindu tradition, there's a beautiful mantra in the Upanishads that says, Isha vasyamidam sarvam, yat kincha jagatyam jagat, tena tyaktena bunjita, ma grida kasya swiddanam. And it means everything in the universe is pervaded by the divine. There is nothing, no one, nowhere, not pervaded by the divine. Therefore, be very careful with what you use, how you are grabbing the resources of this sacred planet, because they do not belong to you. Mother Earth does not belong to us. We belong to her. And that's why at this time, as our economies are opening up, it's essential that we put the eco back in economy, that we really come together with this vision of what does it look like to open up our economies in a way that our Mother Earth, Mother Nature, biodiversity stays protected. And it's a great blessing today to be able to bring together in this webinar those who will help us to really uplift our consciousness. Because these days, wherever you go, you hear about our global food shortage, or global land shortage, our global water shortage. Ultimately, though, at the core, what we have is a global consciousness shortage. And so we've been so blessed to be able to bring together today the leaders from the United Nations here in India, in New York, leaders of the faith communities from across the world, and renowned scientists to truly show us, and all those listening, how we can be part of the solution. How, as Mahatma Gandhi said, we can be that change we want to see in the world. And it's a wonderful honor to request on behalf of the United Nations here in India, our most respected Renata Desalien, who is the resident coordinator for the United Nations in India, bringing such a beautiful vision of unity, of sustainability, and of development to the people of this 1.3 billion people nation. So it's a great honor to request her to set the scene for us in this World Environment Day.
Thank you so much. It's I who am honored to be with you today, and very touched by the opening prayers and your beautiful remarks. I wanted to start first greeting all the respected leaders of great religions around the world, great spiritual traditions. Greetings to the other respected panel members, my UN colleagues, of course, and others who are listening. I see some old friends on the participation list, so that's also a great joy. The Bhagavad Gita says, all actions take place in time by interweaving of the forces of nature, but the individual lost in selfish delusion thinks that he himself is the actor. The Quran advises, do no mischief on earth, do not waste by your excess, do not cause corruption of the earth. The Bible tells us, you should not pollute the land on which you live. The mitzvah of Baal Tashchik prohibits the destruction of trees with axes. When we talk about bridging science and faith, especially in the context of the environment, we find these bridges already exist in the most ancient of our moral codes. All sacred traditions venerate nature, seek balance between human beings and ecosystems, and they all warn against destruction of the Earth's natural wealth. We must remember to practice this wisdom, to strengthen our global efforts towards sustainable development, to better protect and preserve our global commons. I'm so happy to be with you this evening on World Environment Day. And I'd like to warmly thank and congratulate the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance and the Parmarth Niketan for the wonderful, meaningful work that you do in the fields of sustainability and equitable development, bringing together science and faith. This year's theme for World Environment Day is biodiversity. As home to 6% of the world's wildlife species, to 4 global biodiversity hotspots, as a country where high human population density and population density of practically every other species meets head to head, India's biodiversity matters a very great deal, both for India and for the world. The country's biodiversity is perhaps best known, globally at any rate, for some of its emblematic endangered species: the magnificent snow leopard, the regal Asian tiger, as well as the Ganges river dolphin, the great Indian bustard, and these are just some of the well-known ones. Countless other precious species live here in India. These are indeed awesome creatures, and they must be protected, and biodiversity is very much about protecting them and their well-being. But it's about much more as well. It's about the food we eat and the fields it comes from. It's about the water we drink and the air we breathe. It's about the natural systems and cycles that link the diversity of living things on this planet together into one single, great, interconnected, living organism or living being. It's about life itself. Life both in its scientific interpretation and life in its deeper spiritual significance. Molecular scientists who study the tiniest particles of nature and astrophysicists who study the movement of the celestial bodies across the skies both know that everything is interconnected. And when we study the ancient Vedas, the tenets of Buddhism, and all the other great religions, we find the same principle of interdependence, interconnectedness, oneness. Gandhi and so many other wise people around the world know this well, knew this well. We don't call nature Mother Nature for nothing. So on this World Environment Day 2020, as we launch the UN Decade of Ecosystem Restoration, as India chairs the Committee of Parties for 2 of the UN's important environmental conventions, the Convention to Combat Desertification and the Convention on Migratory Species, as we struggle to come to terms with COVID-19, a zoonotic disease that jumped between animals and humans, mainly because of our blatant disrespect for them. At this time, this dialogue could not be more welcome and could not be more significant. The role of faith and the interface between science and faith is critical. Can we mobilize faith-based networks to inspire a new love and connect with nature? Can we leverage the incredible work your organizations do, especially in the water and sanitation fields, to make the circular economy a way of life for all? Can we build greater and more sustainable, greener and more sustainable lifestyles, sustainable production and consumption, sustainable work cultures? Can we use our ancient traditions to build a new global mindset, not only of harmony with nature, but of global solidarity and cooperation with each other, overcoming hate and stigma, building equitable and just societies? I think we can, and I think everyone here feels we can as well. And to help us, we already have a great global to-do list. We of course have the wisdom of the ancient scriptures, we've always had them, but now we also have a great global to-do list with nearly 200 countries signing up to it. I'm talking about Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals. Great progress has been made on these goals in India. There's no doubt about that. But much, so much still remains to be done, particularly post-COVID-19 that has truly set us back. I look forward to learning from all of you, from the wealth and wisdom of the world's great religions and spiritual practices, so that we can strengthen our collective efforts to make our interconnectedness with each other and with nature a living, breathing reality. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Happy World Environment Day. It's time for nature.
Thank you so much, Renata, for such a truly beautiful and inspiring opening remarks. Biodiversity is life. And yeah, we have a long to-do list. So with all of us, though, together, working together, we have faith that we will be able slowly, slowly together, hand in hand and heart in heart, to not just tick off the items of the to-do list, but actually through the to-do list, bring forth a whole new way of being together. So thank you so much for your words, and thank you so much for your leadership here in India, where it really is so critically needed and appreciated. And we now have with us Eric Solheim, who's the former executive director of the United Nations Environment Program. And he is joining us this evening. Unfortunately, has another engagement immediately now. So we will call upon him to share with us his words of inspiration of how we together, faith, science, all of the different sectors and all of those watching us from all over the world, what can we do? What can we implement to really be the solution for Mother Earth, for Mother Nature, and for all of that biodiversity?
Thank you so much for inviting me to this fantastic event. I cannot tell you how pleased I am to be with so many great people and to listen to this opening prayer, which was so beautiful. The power of spirituality to change the world is enormous. But sometimes I believe we need moral clarity, and one historical person who really brought moral clarity was the greatest of all Americans, Abraham Lincoln. He once said that if slavery is not wrong, nothing is wrong. And that's the kind of clarity we also need in our times. If destroying this one beautiful planet God has created for us, if that's not wrong, nothing is wrong. Not only is wrong, it's sin, it's brutality, it simply must stop. But I made one observation traveling to basically all corners of the world, speaking to people about the environment and the need to protect the Mother Earth. And that is when I ask people, what's your motivation? Why are you so dedicated to a greener planet? Once upon, over and over again, people say, it comes from my faith. God has told me to act this way. I want to be a true practitioner of my religion, and that's why I'm so engaged in protecting Mother Earth. And if you look to the core of all religions, I mean, I'm not aware of, but tell me if it exists. I don't think it exists any religion where Mother Earth is not at the core. I mean, Islam even made the color of nature the color of its religion. Coming from this brutal desert of Arabia where there hardly rains, of course, green, the color of nature, became the color of the religion. Jokingly, some people said when the French were lighting the Eiffel Tower during the climate talks in Paris, they said, well, this is a plot to make France an Islamic state, and they have made the Eiffel Tower Islamic. Of course, it was green for nature, but this come together. Hinduism, well, Ganesh is half elephant, half human, but a true god. When Hanuman, the monkey king, was to support Ram to rescue Sita from the evil king of Lanka or Sri Lanka, well, he made a an army of monkeys. And when 2 years back I had the pleasure of working with India on World Environment Day and was hosted in India, Sadhguru, Sri Ravi Shankar, many spiritual leaders were among the people who really engaged with people to understand the importance of the environment. And if we move to my religion, Christianity, it goes exactly the same. The Bible starts with the environment. God is creating the earth. He's looking into this beautiful earth, and he's so happy with himself because he has created something so splendid, so beautiful, so fantastic that he can rest on the seventh day, satisfied with what he has done. And the Christian Bible also ends, by the way, with the nature. John the Apostle is sitting on a Greek island, I think it's Crete, and he has an enormous vision of a flood, informed from nature about the fate of humanity. And of course, Jesus Christ is using symbols from nature all the time. He says, I'm the water of life. And most people now, of course, combine Christianity with the cross, but the early Christians had fish was the main symbol. So all the religions are really hardcore what we need if we want to change the way we behave. We are just out of the COVID, hopefully on the way out of the COVID-19 crisis, or we are in the midst of it. We don't really know. And COVID-19 crisis has shown, as basically all other crises, the worst and the best of humanity, and the worst and the best of religions. True religions has been mobilized to blame others, saying that it was the Muslims or the Hindus or the Asians or the Chinese, someone else who's to blame for this catastrophe. But much, much, much more importantly, the religion has been the way to create the community we need, the global community and the local community. Think of all the Sikhs, all over India has been mobilized to hand out food to people, to really feed the needy when the state cannot really do it and people cannot do it themselves. Well, Sikh Gurdwaras were there to feed people, not only in India, they did it in the richest nation in the world, the United States of America, even in California. Sikh communities were feeding people in need during this crisis. So religious communities has been at the core of bringing us out of the crisis, and they will be absolutely central to the next step. Because what's the need of the hour now? The need of the hour in the world is the word together. Together we can resolve all problems. If we are divided, fighting each other, every issue is too big for us. And religion can bring us together. We need political leadership for sure. Brilliant leaders like Prime Minister Modi or President Macron or Chancellor Merkel, they need to lead us into the green future. We need business leadership, and we see many more and more business leaders coming up. But we also need spiritual leadership because we need to be inspired. We need to believe in this. It needs to come from our inner feelings, then it will be strong. And I'm so confident that we will get this spiritual leadership in the years to come, and that we can tap into both organizational strength of religious communities. That's important, but most importantly, the spiritual leadership, which can only come from this inner feeling, the connection to nature, the connection to God, which religions bring us. I started with what I believe is the greatest American of all times. Let me end with what's the greatest Indian of all times, Mahatma Gandhi. He, in my view, defined spirituality very clearly when he said that happiness, that is when what you think and what you say and what you do comes together. That's true spirituality, and no one can inspire us as much into this than this man. He was not a god. He did many mistakes, but he was such an inspiring leader and such a spiritual leader. So let's believe in the power of spirituality to change this planet.
Thank you so much, Eric, for such beautiful words, and especially for the way that you've woven together all of the different faith traditions, different philosophical traditions, in really making it so clear what the challenges we're facing are, as well as how each of us can be a solution to those challenges. And we're so glad that you were able to join us on this call. And I'm sorry that we're going to lose you so soon, but thank you so much for your really very, very wise and special contribution to this. It's now a great honor to request His Holiness Pujaswami Chidanand Saraswati Ji, the co-founder and chair of the Global Interfaith WASH Alliance and president of Parmarth Niketan, to share with us his words of wisdom and inspiration.
My dear sisters and brothers, first I offer my gratitude to the United Nations for giving the world the message, the vision, and the mission to protect the environment. I strongly believe that Corona has come as an ambassador for our environment. I think this is a divine design. On World Environment Day, let us reflect on the lessons we have learned from COVID-19. The nature has shown us that when we go inside, she is able to heal and recover. It means we are the problem. Now, let us be part of the solution also, not only the problem. Let us be part of the solution. Our scriptures tell us the whole world is one family. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Not only human beings, but all living beings are part of our family. Every species is part of our family. Every species is divine. In our scriptures, it is also said, Sarva Bhut Hite Rataha. It means we must engage ourselves in the service of all beings. We have worshipped the Creator for so long, but it is time that we protect, preserve, and serve the sacred creation, and it is very simple. Live simply so that others might simply live. It means being green, living green and acting green. Be organic and go organic. Being conscious, connected, and compassionate towards all. There are countless ways we can protect our environment and be the change we want to see in the world. I love that, what Mahatma Gandhi said. He shared so beautifully, there is always enough for everyone's need and never enough for any man's greed. Let us learn and teach and preach the importance of consuming only according to our need, not according to our greed. Let us move from greed culture to green culture. Let us move from need culture to a new culture. This green culture and new culture must bring green technologies and innovations. The pilot plans and example must be set with green ashrams, green temples, green mosques, and green institutions. In our ashram, we need 500 kilowatt energy. And with solar power, we are harvesting more than we need. We are treating all of our sewage waste on site, turning away water into reusable, treated water, what I like to call green water. Did you know that 70 to 80 million trees are cut every year for traditional last rites, ceremonies, and other traditional ceremonies in India? That's why we are promoting green crematoriums instead of just traditional crematoriums. They preserve our traditions and at the same time protecting our environments. These green crematoriums are two kinds, less wood crematorium and woodless crematoriums. We are setting the example by using cow dung and biomass material instead of wood to perform these traditional ceremonies. Faith institutions and leaders must be the bridge between tradition and technology. Mahatma Gandhi said, what is the use of fast speed that has no direction? Faith must illustrate that speed must be in the right direction. Therefore, let us move from a culture of grabbing and holding to a culture of sharing and caring. Let us move from a culture of use and throw to a culture of use and grow. Life is not about having more. Have more, great, God bless you. But life is not about having more. Life is about being more, sharing more, giving more. As we are celebrating World Environmental Day, we must look also at internal environment, which is very important. In our teachings, we believe, jaise bhitar, waise bahar. As is in the inner, so is the outer. We must make sure our environment is protected, preserved, healthy, and pure. But we must also make sure our inner environment is as well. There is a virus in the air. Wherever you go, everybody is talking about corona. There is a virus in the air, no doubt, but there must not be a virus in our minds and in our hearts. When we talk about biodiversity, that includes not only different species, but also different shades of the same human species. It means all colors, all cultures, all creeds, all races, and all religions. Sometimes when I am at the airport, especially abroad, I look around and I see the amazing variety of sizes and shapes and colors. It is obvious that God loves diversity. That means we must protect this diversity. The greatest message is love. Love and love all, serve all, protect all, be inclusive. When we pray Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. May all be happy. May all be healthy. May all be cultured. May no one suffer. We don't pray only for Hindus or Indians or even for only human beings. We pray for all beings. Let us wake up. Let us shape up. Let us be the ambassador of Mother Earth. From the United Nations to the United Creation, let us be together. And for that, I wanted to show you a 1-minute video, but I think my time must have been over when our Honorable Maulana Ji's, he is a very famous Maulana in India, Hazrat Maulana Mahmud Madni Sahab, amazing power he has. And when he finishes his talk, then we'll show you that how coming together, Hindu and Muslim communities, that we had a beautiful, amazing environmental yatra, which brought harmony, peace, and love, planting trees in more than 1,000 madrasas, gurukuls, and public utility places. And we will see and show you when he talks. Thank you, and thank you for listening me and giving this great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Puja Swamiji, for that beautiful wisdom, for giving such very specific ways that each of us, both in life as well as even in death, in terms of the type of cremation that we have, can really make a difference. And thank you so much for being such a leader of this in the community, and especially today for emphasizing the importance of the inner environment. Because yes, as we know, when inside of us there is oneness. Only then we can bring oneness outside. When inside there is peace, only then we can bring peace to our world. And so, yes, we have to remove that pollution from the inner environment, that virus from the inner environment, as you have shared. Thank you so much. We now have the wonderful joy of listening to the words of our Dr. Bruce Lipton, a world-renowned author, speaker, scientist turned mystic, truly someone who blends in his life that science and spirituality. We've had the great joy of welcoming him to Parmarth Niketan here on several occasions, being together with him on a stage, talking about science and God and molecules and love in one breath, in one sentence, in one topic, has been such a great joy. So I'm very, very pleased to be able to welcome him and ask him to share with us his beautiful vision.
Thank you, dear friends. Thank you, Your Holiness Puja Swamiji and Puja Sadhviji, and distinguished members of all this panel right here. I'm so honored to be here to talk about what we all know is going on, and that is the planet is engulfed in crises, from COVID-19 to climate change to economic upheaval, religious and racial violence, all happening at once. We can focus on the individual crises, but that's a problem because the crises are all a collection of crises because there's one overriding crisis that is represented, and that is we are not sustainable as a civilization. Human civilization has precipitated what is called the sixth mass extinction of life on this planet. 5 times in the history of this planet, life was thriving, and some event wiped out up to 90% of life, and then it started all over again. The last mass extinction, 66 million years ago, the planet was lush with forests and tropical jungles and dinosaurs. And a comet hit near Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, upended the entire ecosystem, wiping out all the dinosaurs and up to 90% of life. Well, science has recognized that today we are in the 6th mass extinction, that we're losing species of organisms on this planet faster than in previous mass extinctions. But the most important lesson from science is that human behavior is responsible for this extinction. So the earth is calling on us to wake up at this moment. Wake up because our time is short. And it's relevant to wake up now because science, which has been the truth provider of Western civilization for a couple of hundred years and now globally, science has given us a theory called Darwinian evolution. And the theory is based on the fact that there's a struggle for life, that life is based on a competition for survival, and that we look at life as a threat. And in fact, in the 1600s, the mission statement that is actually still present in science is from Francis Bacon, is that science must learn to dominate and control nature. Well, that separates us from nature. In fact, interestingly enough, the idea of Judeo-Christian monotheism, which is spread around the planet to a large degree, the origin story talks about nature being created and then humans were added on like an option at the end of that creation that separated us from nature. Science, when it became the truth provider of Western civilization 150 years ago, also separated us from nature because science says we got here by accidents of mutation. I say, well, why is it relevant? Because if we're here by accident, then I say, then what's our purpose? And the answer is, how can you have a purpose if you came from accident? Again, between religion and science, we have been separated from the environment, given a mission to control that environment. And I say, how's that working out? And the answer is clear. We are creating our own extinction at this moment because we have lost contact with nature. Somehow or other, we think we are separate from nature. We evolved from nature. We are nature. And now the wake-up call is coming and saying, listen, you are not living in harmony. And it's time for you to recognize you are part of a bigger global scheme. We also must recognize a very important fact that a garden is not a battleground. And we look at the planet today as this battle for survival and competition, when I go, no, a garden is the height of cooperation. So we are being called upon by Mother Nature at this moment to come together, to cooperate and create a new world. And fortunately, there's a revision of science that changes everything. Quantum physics, the most valid science on this planet, has come in and told us the most important fact, that this material expression is an illusion of consciousness, that consciousness is creating our life experiences. So science is calling on us to say, we have to change our conscious awareness of how we live on this planet. And between that, which is the spiritual foundation of science, quantum physics, the new science of epigenetics also shows that our consciousness is controlling our genetics and our behavior. And so we're left with a very interesting situation at this moment. We are in the throes of our own extinction. It's not 1,000 years from now. We're talking within decades that we're losing all these species. So we're here for a wake-up call. Mother Nature is giving us an opportunity. She's giving us this chance to say, listen, you haven't been in harmony, but now is the time to do so. Because the clock is ticking. We're coming near an end. And yet we can change our consciousness. And consciousness being the creator means we can change the creation that we're experiencing. And to be with all the distinguished members on this panel is a very similar story for every one of us. To wake up and recognize we are more than this physical body. We are spiritual entities living in a world. And it's even more to my way of thinking, because most people think that we die and go to heaven if you're doing well. I really look at it in a very different way. I think we're born into heaven. This is where we came to create. And the creation that we've been providing is not sustainable. And so here's the wake-up call. Change. Start to recognize we're all one family of humans, and all humans are one part of Mother Nature, and that a garden needs to be built again because we've desecrated that garden. And this is the wake-up call at this moment, to start to learn to live in harmony, not just with each other, but to learn to live in harmony with the garden that created us. We are not separate. We are all one. And that is the whole foundation of new, modern, revisionist science, which takes us from a world of threats and fights and all that into a world of peace and harmony and love. And to take the messages from my dear, dear colleagues, Puja Swamiji and Puja Sadhviji, take their words and make them a way of life. We wake up every day with the words of harmony. I just love Puja Swamiji because his words are poems. His words give us a story in just couples of words. He puts things together. So I am honored to be here with you. I'm honored to be here on this planet, because at this time we have the opportunity to manifest heaven on earth once we understand we are the garden. Thank you very much.
Thank you so, so much, Bruce. It's such an extraordinarily beautiful and essential message that you bring from the world of science, because there's a lot of people out there who are more inclined to listen to messages that come from the world of science than necessarily that come from the world of faith. And to listen to science say, and to say so beautifully, that which the sacred scriptures say, that we are one, that we're one with each other, we're one with the planet, we're one with God, we are spirit. And that, yes, this can be heaven. It's up to us to create it. So thank you so much for reminding us of that and offering us this beautiful overlap of science and spirituality, and reminding us that where we're going and where we should be and what we're co-creating is all about cooperation, not competition, and all about gardens instead of battlefields. And of course, in a garden, there's an infinite variety. As Puja Swamiji was saying, that variety on earth, and the garden is one in which every single flower is protected. So thank you so much. And it's a beautiful and very deep honor and blessing to ask Chief Rabbi David Rosen, the International Director of Interreligious Affairs of the American Jewish Committee, which is just one of the dozens of really esteemed hats that he wears in the world of religious ministry and interreligious harmony, peace, love, togetherness, development. He's an extraordinary leader, not just for the Jewish community, but for the entire world community. So it's such a great honor to have you with us, Chief Rabbi David Rosen.
Thank you again so much, Sadhviji and Swami Chidananji, for the honor to be able to be with you and to participate in this event. I actually feel that I would probably do best if I simply said, I agree with all the wonderful things that have been said, and said so beautifully, especially by Puja Swami. All those who have spoken have communicated the truths, and I don't think that I can add very much, but I will try at least to reinforce a sense of these profound insights. If a religion, as religions do, and especially my tradition, affirm that the cosmos is a creation, then we are affirming that the ecosystem is a manifestation of the divine. The book of Genesis that opens the Hebrew Bible indicates that we are placed in the garden to work and to preserve it. We would call that today sustainable development. In other words, sustainable development is the mandate of the truly religiously conscious person, the person who is spiritually alive. If my extreme language may be forgiven, I would say any religious person who is not consumed with a care for the cosmos, the creation, the ecosystem, is not truly religious. To claim to be so and yet to be impervious to not only the beauty and the glory, but the challenges and responsibilities is nothing less than hypocrisy. Some very important quotes, biblical quotes, have already been mentioned. But allow me to refer to the book of Leviticus, where God is presented as saying, "The earth is mine, and you are sojourners and transients with me." This is enormously important. Humans delude themselves into illusions of permanence. And this is very dangerous, because when we think that we are all secure, all permanent, we are arrogate to ourselves, not just privileges, but a kind of authority that tends more often than not to be abusive. Understanding that we are transient and that we are therefore vulnerable is an enormously important moral, religious understanding. And this period of the pandemic surely should have reinforced our awareness of how vulnerable we all are. In a sense, if it has done so, it is certainly a silver lining to the cloud. Mention has already been made of our interconnectedness. I would say, and indeed, Swamiji has referred to the central value of love. According to our sages of the Talmud, the most important teaching in the Bible is love your neighbor as yourself. And the great mystical rabbi and great scholar of the 16th century, Rabbi Yehuda Loewy of Prague, declared that it is not possible to love God if we do not love God's creatures. And that should be an obvious truism, but it's not. And we religious representatives and leaders have the obligation to instill that awareness more profoundly within our respective communities. Another rabbinic mystic understood the verse, love your neighbor, not as yourself, but as the Hebrew can easily mean, love your neighbor, he is yourself. We are one in the divine. And of course, the central declaration of Jewish faith is precisely the affirmation of the oneness of the divine of which we are all part. And so again, this period has highlighted our interconnectedness, our interdependency, our responsibility for one another. And the challenge is now going to be to sustain these positive lessons from this period. But let me just add that religions are more than faith. They are, if they are true to their métier, they are ways of life. And ways of life concern all aspects of living. Within my own tradition, one of the important aspects of this way of life is precisely in dietary laws, where perhaps we did not reach the heights that Dharma religions reached already so many centuries and millennia ago. But nevertheless, there was the understanding already within scripture that a dietary consciousness inculcates holiness. More than that, it should inculcate ethical awareness. Our sages understand that the laws for keeping kosher are designed to ennoble the human spirit. We today live in a very different world. Once upon a time, there were conditions under which people had, if you like, respectful relationships with animal life. Today, we live in an era of unparalleled barbarism in relation to animal life. But it's not just the cruelty that is involved that diminishes human consciousness and refinement. The consequences of this cruelty reverberate upon us, not only ethically, but practically. Indeed, the vast majority of pandemics that we have experienced in recent times, includes the present one, seem to appear to be zoonotic. And whether it's bird flu or swine flu or whatever the flus are, they are coming in no small part through our lack of respect for the identity and the integrity of animal life, the manipulation that blurs the border and allows all kinds of infections to spread. Much of it is the product of crass Western developed greed that consumes billions of animals, confines them in spaces which are breeding grounds for viruses, and of course have to be fed these animals masses of antibiotics pumped into them, which then lead to resistance and the production of superbugs that threaten human society. And all of this aside from the degradation of our environment, the destruction of our ecosystem, the enormous waste of natural resources, all coming from it. All of this is incompatible with a way of life that demands that we live in ethical consciousness and responsibility with sentient beings and with our world at large. So one of the most important teachings that we must draw from this episode is a greater awareness of how terrible our misbehavior has been and continues to be. And that we are blessed with the opportunities today to find alternatives. Perhaps there were times when we couldn't find adequate sustenance everywhere in the world and all times through a plant-based diet. But today we can. As Swamiji mentioned, there is enough to be able to provide for all. In fact, if we really adopted truly a plant-based diet, we would have the resources to feed all the hungry in our world. And therefore not to do so is in fact an affront against our fellow human beings, aside from its ramifications for the natural world, for sentient beings, and for our ecosystem as a whole. So this, I think, is the most important practical behavior message that we need to be able to take away from this period. And we need to say to governments and to authorities to try to withstand the pressures of business, multinational, and the agro-food industry in terms of the livestock industry. We need to, above all, to tell them there is a slogan that has become commonplace amongst many good people in recent times: do well by doing good. It's a nice slogan, but we need to be able to emphasize to the world that you do good by being well. If you are physically and morally healthy, then you produce a better world, a world of greater goodness. And goodness is what must motivate the policies of authorities, national and international. We need to convey that message, that by understanding a teleology of service and of dedication for others, we justify our presence in leadership and on authority, and that is the purpose for governance. These are not new lessons, these are old lessons, but we live in a period of where we have to renew these for the sustenance, for the preservation, for the future, and for the flourishing of our planet and of all life on it. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Rosen. Your extreme words were exactly what are required for the extreme situation that we find ourselves in. As Bruce shared, we're in the midst of creating our own extinction. And even before we do that, we are creating an extinction of the species with whom we share this planet and harming those who aren't yet endangered or extinct. So it's an extreme time, and the words are powerful and essential. And especially thank you so much for your words and your great action and leadership in the vegetarian and vegan diet as really one of the core, crucial, essential, kind of non-negotiable elements of a deep spiritual practice and commitment, as well as deep care for our natural world, as has been said by so many scientists and even research coming out of the United Nations. The livestock industry, animal agriculture, is the single greatest contributor to climate change, and adopting a vegetarian diet or significantly reducing our meat intake is the single greatest action that we as individuals can actually take to counter climate change and to counter the environmental destruction. So it really brought home the importance of all of us not only talking the talk, but also actually walking the talk, breathing the talk, living the talk, eating the talk. So thank you so much for that and all of your words and your work. It's a wonderful joy and honor to ask our respected and beloved Audrey Kitagawa, the chairperson of the Parliament of World Religions, truly a historic organization that is uniting all of the people of all of the regions, all of the religions across the world. And the chairperson of that, she is also a great spiritual leader as well, and also wears so many powerful and influential and impactful hats in this world of bringing great inspiration and change. Audrey, it's a wonderful joy to listen to you.
Good morning, everyone. It is really wonderful to start my day with all of you on World Environment Day. And I'm very grateful for this opportunity to share about our environment and to help raise awareness about the rapid acceleration of the mass extinction of numerous species, as has previously been mentioned, that is taking place, that is caused by humans. And it poses a huge risk to our own survival. It seems now that almost every day when I pick up the newspaper, I am reading an eye-opening article about the rapid degradation of our environment. Yesterday morning, there was an article about research published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences that indicate the critical window for the prevention of mass losses of biodiversity and species will close much sooner than formerly assumed. And this will be within 10 to 15 years. We are eroding the capabilities of the planet to maintain human life and life in general, which will reach a tipping point of no return that will unleash the failure of ecosystems, destabilize economies and governments, and trigger famine and refugee crisis. In order to stem this crisis, there has to be an immediate halt to deforestation, a complete reform of the wildlife trade that has been caused by this kind of incursion into the rainforest, and we must replace our habits with sustainability over profits. A strong call was made to reduce human enterprise, especially its consumptive demands on the biosphere, and to create tools for educating and activating the public about the unfolding extinction. And I am very pleased to share with you today that the Interfaith Rainforest Initiative has created these valuable tools to educate and activate the public and to help us know about the absolute necessity to protect our tropical forests. They have also clearly demonstrated the nexus between the pandemics that we are encountering, and that has been increasing more and more in recent decades, that we are facing as we continue our incursions into these rainforests. We have the opportunity to hear from Dr. Charles McNeil, who is on this panel. And I wanted to express my deepest appreciation to him and his fantastic team at UN Environment Program's Interfaith Rainforest Initiative for creating and publishing educational toolkits for communities of faith and religious leaders. Just released today is this resource guide on rainforest protection for religious communities. It is comprised of 3 chapters that cover understanding the causes and consequences of tropical deforestation, the spiritual and moral imperatives to protect rainforests and their peoples, providing 10 perspectives from the Baha'i, Buddhist, Christian, Confucian, Taoist, Hindu, Islamic, Jewish, Shinto, and Sikh perspectives. It also sets forth distinct ways that religious communities can get involved. This is a resource guide that has the moral and spiritual foundation undergirding the information, which can be applied in secular and civil society as well as within religious and faith communities. I highly recommend reading this resource guide and learn how you can get directly involved in protecting our rainforests. A week from now, the Interfaith Rainforest Initiative will also be releasing this important document. It's called Rainforests and Pandemics: How Protecting the Tropical Forests Can Prevent Coronaviruses and Other Emerging Diseases, an issue primer for religious leaders and faith communities. It clearly establishes the fact that these animal to human pathogenic transfers are increasing as we make incursions into these rainforests and come into contact with animals. Many viruses, such as Ebola, SARS, and the current COVID-19, have animal origins. And the more we consume and invade the natural habitat of these animals that live in rainforests, the more these pathogenic transfers to humans are taking place. The rainforests are therefore not remote to our lives, but their destruction have direct impact upon us. This current pandemic has had a profound impact across the board on our economy, schools, social and working relationships. So I encourage all of you to go to the Parliament of the World's Religions website, as well as the Rainforest Interfaith Initiative website for more detailed information. It is time that we change how we are living and wake up to the need to protect our rainforests and cease mismanaging our natural resources. The divine spirit is everywhere in creation, and we are being called to get back into right relationship with it, a relationship that is based upon respect for the environment. We must move from predation and destruction to preservation, restoration, and renewal of our environment. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Audrey, for those beautiful and inspiring words. Also for telling us about these great new resources coming out of the Interfaith Rainforest Alliance, and for emphasizing the crucial role that the rainforests play on all of our lives. The Amazon itself produces about 20% of the oxygen in the world and holds about 20% of the carbon dioxide and gives us about 20% of the world's water. So they really are, as you've shared so beautifully, the essential components of a healthy today for all of us and a healthy future for all of our family to come. So thank you so much for that. And thank you also for the great role that the Parliament under your leadership is playing to really bring about the intersection between faith and action for the protection of our planet. We will now have, as we had mentioned in the beginning, we will be having these very short 1-minute prayers of different religions throughout the panel. And I now would ask actually us to come back to Audrey for a beautiful interfaith prayer.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. In all ways, we express our gratitude to the divine creator of all there is. And I'd like to recite now this simple but powerful prayer that I feel captures the Alpha to the Omega and the human condition to the divine creator. Thou art the Father, thou art the Mother, thou art friend and companion, thou art knowledge and wealth. Thou art all in all. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from ignorance to light. Lead us from death to immortality, and manifest through and through, and protect us with thy sweet, benign presence. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Peace, Peace, Peace. May we always be humble in the magnitude of the vast manifestations of the divine creator, and ask the divine light of love and wisdom guide our actions in all ways, always. Amen, amen. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Audrey. And I now would ask Dr. Aza Karam, the Secretary General of Religions for Peace, to lead us in a prayer from the Muslim tradition.
Assalamu alaikum. Greetings of peace upon you all. Those of you who know me know that I do not usually lead any Muslim prayers whatsoever. I am, however, privileged in this context because Sadhvi ji asks and I cannot refuse her. I am delighted, therefore, to read a short verse in the Quran from Surah Al-Inshirah with you. I will first read it in Arabic and then I will translate. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب صدق الله العظيم. In this verse, God is speaking to the Prophet Muhammad after he has gone through an intense series of hardships. But he has come victorious and still he meets further hardship. One after the other, challenges that are faced by the Prophet ﷺ and the early Muslim community. And God says to him, have we not opened your breast with light, with love? Have we not removed the burden from you that put you down, that burdened you, that weighed on you? Have we not raised your voice, your reputation? Then you should know that surely with hardship, there is ease. With hardship, there is ease. Therefore, continue that which you are tasked with. Continue to uphold your responsibility. Work hard to do so. And turn to me. Turn to me, God says. That prayer is for us to know that no matter how hard the challenge, the struggles that we face, there is grace, there is mercy. And this on this Environment Day, as we think of the intensity of the challenge, that our entire planet, with every single living species on it, facing such a challenge, with every challenge, there is mercy, for God is merciful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for agreeing to lead that prayer for us. We will enjoy the prayer from the Sikh Dharma in the next round of sacred offerings. And we will move now to our next address, which will be given to us by Dr. Yasmin Ali Haq, who is the head of UNICEF, the representative of UNICEF here in India. She is a great leader, a great visionary, and working with UNICEF here in India has been a truly wonderful honor and joy and opportunity for our Global Interfaith WASH Alliance. And it's been very beautiful to see the way that under her leadership and vision and guidance and direction, the work of UNICEF here in India is growing and blossoming and touching so many more children across the nation. So, Dr. Yasmin, we are so honored to have you with us here this evening.
Thank you so much, and my sincere appreciation and respect to all colleagues who are on the panel with us, and also to all the participants who have taken the time to join us. Really, to start with thanking the Global Interfaith WASH Alliance and Parmarth Niketan for organizing this really important event on World Environment Day, and also for inviting me to join you. I'd like to make 4 key points and really draw on from the children's perspective. because if I did not do that, I would be failing in my duty. Today, we celebrate World Environment Day amidst a global pandemic, and many of you have talked about it. This day serves as the UN's flagship day for promoting worldwide awareness and action for the environment. And with many of the Earth's ecosystems nearing critical tipping points and being challenged by climate change and now COVID-19, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. They both do not respect national boundaries and both require countries to work together to find solutions. Furthermore, they also underscore the inextricable link between human health and the health of the planet. So it's very important that we focus on the immediate response to COVID-19 pandemic. We must not lose sight of environmental sustainability. The second point I'd like to flag is that children are the least responsible for climate change, yet they will bear the greatest burden of its impact. And in no uncertain terms, they continue to tell us that. They continue to tell us adults that we are failing them. The looming existential threat of climate disruption is real. It's in front of us. And as its impact intensifies over time, it is the children and young people of today who will face the worst effects. Increase in frequency and ferocity of extreme weather events such as cyclones and heat waves continue to threaten our children's lives and destroy infrastructure critical to their well-being. Globally, we know that close to 90% of the burden of disease attributable to climate change, such as cholera during floods, is borne by children under the age of 5. It's really essential for us to recognize the relationship between climate change, migration, and child rights too. Forced migration due to climate change related hazards such as the rising sea level, storms, drought, to enable secure livelihoods, and such efforts displace a large proportion of children and their families in India. Vidarbha in Maharashtra, for instance, has been in the throes of farmer suicides and agrarian crises for over 2 decades. Increasing temperature and water shortage are hampering agriculture, resulting in forced migration of adults and children. When children are displaced, they can suffer impacts to their health, to their well-being. They have difficulty in accessing water, sanitation, shelter, and education. They also become very vulnerable to trafficking and sexual abuse. The Global Climate Risk Index 2020 has listed India as the 5th most vulnerable country to climate change. The report also claims that the highest number of deaths due to climate change are recorded from India. COVID-19 thus presents us with an opportunity to steer towards a path that tackles climate change, while laying a better foundation for a safer, healthier, more inclusive and resilient tomorrow. It is really important that we tap into the knowledge and the enthusiasm of our over 300 million young people in India with the necessary tools, knowledge, and power to advocate for themselves on climate change. The third key point I'd like to make is that climate and environmental sustainability strategy must focus on making children central to it. And that's what we are trying to do in UNICEF. Empowering children as change agents, advocating for a more resilient future, protecting children from impacts and shocks while addressing the need to reduce emissions and pollution in support of the commitments that governments have made throughout the world. And we have supported several practices and programs to ensure that children live in a safe and clean environment, while also involving them and getting their action. For example, with the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, we are developing a clean and green initiative for healthcare facilities by investing in environmentally sustainable infrastructure and practices. This is really to ensure that they are disaster resilient so that women and newborn services are not disrupted by events. In Maharashtra, water security issues are being addressed by training women farmers in drought-prone region on sustainable agricultural practices and budgeting water use and reuse. This initiative, which has reached about 10,000 households in Marathwada, focused especially on women-led households to promote the passing of livelihood and nutritional benefits from the heads of the households to their children. This year, as part of our World Children's Day initiatives, which we will see in the later part of the year, we want to organize a climate parliament. The aim is to identify child advocates passionate about environment who will really push our policymakers to understand and act on the priorities that they are setting. Finally, this year, the theme of World Environment Day is biodiversity. Faith leaders are critical to convey the message of an essentially diverse, interconnected planet for all. And I have heard from all of you your commitment to this issue, and we need it more. We need your commitment to be stronger. The theme biodiversity reminds us that every species is interconnected and interdependent. The diversity in environment is essential for us to survive and thrive. The critical role that faith leaders play in influencing sociocultural changes in the world has been very well recognized. In all the efforts to eliminate disease, to get more girls in school, to reduce the stigma against women and the girl child, without the commitment that we have had from faith leaders, we would not have reached where we have today. Yet a lot more needs to be done. UNICEF has been working closely with faith leaders across religions through Jiva and Interfaith alliances across states in India to enable wide reach of critical messages during COVID-19 for sanitation and importantly for ending violence against children and reducing or ending child marriage. We are eager to work together with our faith leaders in fostering a sentiment to act for nature and therefore for every child. Children have the right to live in a world free from life-threatening effects of climate change. There is overwhelming scientific evidence on the dangers of climate change, and there are clear opportunities to alter its course. We have no excuse not to act ambitiously for our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yasmin, for your words and your leadership. The impact of climate change on children, as you expressed and explained so beautifully, that impact is the greatest. And yet it's so easy to leave them behind. It's so easy to forget the impact of children. And that calling that you've given us at the end, that it really is every child's right, not a privilege, but a right to live in a world that is free from those life-threatening impacts, that is free from the violence that we as the adults with the luxury to choose, free from the world that we are leaving them, which is this world of climate change, a world of extinction, a world of environmental destruction. So thank you for the work that you're doing to give them those rights and to restore those rights for them as well as for the women who are their mothers or their soon to be mothers. And working together with UNICEF, as I mentioned in the beginning, has been and will continue to be a great joy, a great opportunity, and something that is very, very core and essential to our Global Interfaith WASH Alliance, from being launched by UNICEF to joining hands here together in India with UNICEF. So thank you so much for joining us this evening and offering your great leadership. It's a great joy now and great honor to ask a dear beloved brother of mine, Dr. Reverend Victor Kazanjian, to speak to us. He is the executive director of the United Religions Initiative, an international, interfaith, really grassroots-based organization that is active in over 100 countries, 108 countries, I think at last count, which is a very auspicious number in the Indian tradition, and really rooted in bringing the people together to truly serve and make a difference on the ground. So thank you so much for your leadership and vision. And we look so forward to hearing your words this evening or morning for you. Thank you also so much for joining us so early in the morning, your time.
You are so welcome. Thank you, dear sister. And thank you, Swamiji, and all my dear friends at Jiwa and Parmarth for gathering us. What a blessing to be with you for this World Environment Day. And thank you to my sisters and brothers who partnered in making this possible. I bring you greetings from the global grassroots community of URI. It's so beautiful to see so many friends who are together in this gathering. It feels like the family is together once again, and my heart is full. And a deep bow to our sacred musical inspirers, Deva Premal and Mitten. My wife Michelle and I are among the many who have joined you every day during this lockdown to be blessed by the beauty of the spirit transmitted through your beautiful music and your beautiful beings. Dear friends, our world is weeping. Our world is weeping amidst planetary suffering that extends throughout the human community in this time of global pandemic and the human diseases of bigotry, prejudice, and the sickness of superiorities that destroy lives and crush souls. And our Mother Earth herself weeps as she suffers and is torn asunder, her environment poisoned by humanity's ignorance and excess. As the indigenous peoples of the planet have taught us, this ground upon which we walk is the ground of our aliveness, of life itself, a home we share with our plant and animal siblings. Each step we take is an opportunity for powerful connection to all that is and all that has been and all that will be. This air, the air we breathe, is our connection to spirit. Each breath literally our inspiration, a radical statement of our aliveness. We breathe in that which our sister and brother plants breathe out. And with each breath, we affirm the interdependence of all life. You know, in many traditions, water represents the life force. The earth is mostly comprised of water. Our bodies are mostly comprised of water. Water is our teacher. When waters from different rivers come together, one does not try to be higher than the other. They find a common level. One water does not stay separate from the other. They mix and become one. And so our sacred waters teach us about interconnectedness and lead us to peace. Too often in our past, people of different beliefs have seen one another as competitors over truth. Too often, the religions of the world have taught doctrines of domination and dominion over the earth, but no longer. As some of you know, I've spent quite a bit of my life in India, traveling and teaching, and for a time living along the banks of the great Mother Ganga in Varanasi. It was there as a much younger man that I first heard her calling out to me, to all humanity, the voice of the mother calling to let go of our pain, our struggles, our anxieties, our ego, to let it be washed away that we might be free to embrace our interconnectedness with one another, with all life, and with our Mother Earth, our island home. And today, this World Environment Day, she calls us again to move into the sadness and grief of our separateness from ourselves, from each other and from our planet, and to know that separation is illusion. There is no science versus faith. There's no secular versus sacred. This is illusion. Like the aspen tree groves that cover the hillsides of the Rocky Mountains in the country where I live, it may appear as though the trees are separate from each other, each standing defiantly on its own, and yet not. For what appears as separateness is beneath the surface connected, root to root, one tree, one living system. So too are we, by our external perceptions, in believing that we are separate from each other, from all life, living in this illusion. But we are awakening. We are awakening from the delusion. We are reconnecting to the original dream that our Mother Earth dreamed for us of all life connected in a web of mutuality and interdependence that was the original dream that manifests in so many spiritual paths and wisdom traditions. There is no going back. We are awake now. And we have only one way forward. Oh, certainly those people who bear the wounds of separateness are hanging on to the systems of power and privilege, cloaked in illusion, wreaking havoc on our planet and all who dwell therein. Their grievances flow from their grief. Their grievances flow from their grief, which is then projected out in violent ways onto the world. But that old sad voice of the domination of patriarchy is passing away. And we stand at the grave, offering prayers as one era fades away and a new age dawns, an age of recentering ourselves and our systems on the well-being of all humanity and our planet. So let me close with the words of my spiritual mentor, the Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman, African-American Christian and universal mystic and teacher, who spoke into an earlier time of deep conflict, of the wholeness that lies at the heart of humanity and of all life. Hear his words. There is a wholeness that must abound in all we do, that marks with reverence our every step, that has its sway when all else fails, a wholeness that wearies out all evil things and warms the depths of frozen fears, making friend of foe, and lasts beyond the living and the dead, beyond the goals of peace and the end of war. This we seek through all our years, to be complete and of one piece, within and without. Dear friends, as we say at URI, you are I. Y-O-U-R-I. You are I, and we are one, within and without. May we live that reality this day and every day. May it be so. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victor, for those words and for reminding us that we are awake. We are connected. We are one. We are conscious. And for reminding us that the solutions to that which we face in the world, the conflicts we face in the world, are not just about responding to grievances, but actually about treating, responding to, healing grief. We spend so much time figuring out how to answer grievances, but the importance of remembering that we also need to spend time figuring out how, as faith leaders, faith traditions, faith communities, we can really heal that grief that leads to the conflict and to the violence. So thank you so much. And thank you for the great work that URI is doing in the world. I now will ask Reverend Fletcher Harper, who is the Executive Director of Green Faith. It's a little bit out of the original order, but unfortunately he has another commitment he has to go to. So we're going to squeeze him in here before he has to get off of the call. So Reverend Fletcher Harper, it's a wonderful opportunity to have you with us.
Thank you so much for the privilege of being together. I'm speaking to you from the New York City area in the United States. And while we work on an international level and are privileged to do so, my heart is torn apart by what has been happening here in the US this week. And because it has global implications and because it's so deeply connected to the work that we're talking about, I'll offer reflections that tie that together with the COVID pandemic and the climate crisis. This has been an absolutely brutal week. White supremacy has been fully and in the most ugly manner on display. And Green Faith has been standing all week and for many years in solidarity with Black Americans and with Black and Brown people around the world, protesting not just systemic racism, but systemic brutalization. And I want to say that the struggle for climate justice is the same as the struggle for racial and economic justice. The oppressive and extractive plutocracies that have for many centuries now colonized and killed Black and Brown people are the very same forces that have colonized and are killing our planet. The harm done by disasters, whether COVID related or racial violence related or extreme weather and climate related, always, not sometimes, but always disproportionately impact communities of color, the most vulnerable communities wherever we are on this planet. I think it's very important on World Environment Day to say that for too long, the environmental movement has not been adequately concerned about the destruction that climate change inflicts on Black and Brown communities around the world. For too long, we haven't cared enough about Black and Brown people who can't breathe because they are carrying the weight of climate change and air pollution and white supremacy. And let me say again, there can be no climate justice without racial justice. There can be no beloved, multi-faith, spiritual, global community without climate justice and without racial justice. Our vision is very clear. Green Faith envisions a world where we have transformed the era of conquest and extraction and exploitation to one of cooperation and community. A world where we have created a good life where we are connected to each other and to all of nature. Where we have created a world of flourishing life, replacing despair with joy, scarcity with shared abundance, privilege with justly distributed power. This is the future that we envision. This is the future to which we are committed. We know that at this moment, we are all frightened and frustrated by the pandemic, by the climate crisis, by racial violence, by so many things. But we know that we have an opportunity now for personal and collective transformation, to build that life connected to each other and the earth. It is our faith and our spiritual practices that give us the courage to turn towards great challenges, not away from them, and profoundly to transform our societies. People of faith have done so before when there was a great crisis and call to action, and we will rise to do so again. I'll close by saying that we at Green Faith believe that one of the things that is most fundamental to this is building local relationships, building local communities of care and resilience, where people of different spiritualities and faiths and no spirituality or faith can come together to go to work on these issues as a community, in relationship, based on compassion and love and justice. And it's to that task of building those local communities that we dedicate ourselves, and with which I'll end. Thank you.
The great vision. As you said, it's a vision of the future that you're creating, but it's also so much more than that, because as you've shared so beautifully, and also as the overlap of science and spirituality reminds us, our narratives, our thoughts, our beliefs are creating our reality. So it's not just about that which we're creating in the future. You're actually bringing about a completely different today, a new narrative of today. And thank you also so much for emphasizing the importance of color in both justice as well as in diversity, and the importance of ensuring that that is something that we take into great consideration in both the work that we do, as well as the programs and the policies that we're all working for. So I'm so glad you were able to join us this evening, and so great to be together with Green Faith. And I would look forward to having even more programs and opportunities to be together. We now have Dr. Charles McNeil, who is the Senior Advisor on Climate and Forests to the United Nations Environment Program. And it's so great to have you with us as well.
Thank you, Saji. Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you, distinguished colleagues. Although it was totally predictable and even predicted, I didn't foresee that one of the tiniest organisms on Earth, a coronavirus, would bring human society and entire economies to a halt all over the world. Suddenly, shockingly, we saw that the functioning of society, our families, our schools, our businesses can change dramatically overnight, and trillions of dollars can be mobilized immediately in response if we want to, if we need to. It showed us that there are real consequences to breaching natural boundaries, and that our slow and inadequate response over these past decades to climate change and biodiversity loss is setting us up for much worse outcomes. And again, the most vulnerable among us will pay the highest price. We're getting a preview of the future that is hurtling toward us like a huge asteroid, unless we change course. So this truly is a learning moment, but what are we learning really? One thing we're learning, and I'll agree completely with Dr. Kitagawa, is that the battle to sustain nature and our very lives will be won or lost over the protection of rainforests, since this issue remains at the center of many global crises, including human health, Tropical deforestation creates the conditions for the emergence of new diseases like COVID-19. Climate. If tropical deforestation were a country, its annual contribution to climate change would be greater than the entire European Union. Biodiversity. Forests are key to addressing the extinction crisis because 2/3 of all plant and animal species live there. Food security, water for drinking and sanitation depends, and agriculture depends on healthy forests. Human rights. Conserving tropical forests is key to sustaining the culture and ways of life of indigenous peoples. When the rights of indigenous peoples are protected, so are forests. Now COVID-19 is making illegal logging, mining, poaching, and agribusiness even more dangerous to the people who are on the front line of the deforestation crisis. The solutions to tropical deforestation are well known. It comes down to public policies such as regulations, enforcement, and incentive, as well as individual action. And that's where all the viewers come in. So what should faith leaders prioritize to protect planet? As Dr. Kitagawa said, halting and reversing the destruction of rainforests must be very high on that list. And that is why we in the United Nations are so grateful to the women and men of faith for creating and driving the Interfaith Rainforest Initiative, an international multi-faith alliance that is bringing moral urgency and faith-based leadership to ending tropical deforestation. It's amazing to me that so many members of this distinguished panel are so key, who have made the Interfaith Rainforest Initiative possible, thanks to Dr. Kitagawa of Parliament of the World's Religions, thanks to Professor Karam of Religions for Peace, thanks to Reverend Fletcher for Green Faith, thanks to Reverend Kazanjan and to Rabbi Rosen and to the World Council of Churches and the Yale Forum on Religion and Ecology, thanks to the government of Norway and to Eric Soldheim. So what are the core messages that faith leaders can give in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic? I'd say the following. Religious leaders and faith communities can educate their constituencies and advocate with government and business authorities at all levels on the following 6 points. 1, raise awareness about the forest and human health connection. Just like with climate change, we have a moral responsibility not to leave our children a world that is biologically impoverished and unable to protect our health. 2, stop the illegal, unsafe, inhumane wildlife trade in markets that are potent sources of direct contact with disease. 3, demand that policymakers build back better with economic recovery plans that invest in nature-based solutions, that remove harmful subsidies for agriculture, energy, and fisheries that destroy nature, and provide positive, strong incentives for industries to shift to sustainable food systems, reforestation, and clean energy. Number 4, encourage deforestation-free business practice. Exert shareholder pressure to divest from deforestation and support progressive companies with deforestation-free supply chains. Number 5, and this relates to what Rabbi Rosen and Sadbiji have been saying, encourage deforestation-free lifestyles. One of the most potent actions any of us can take to protect nature and protect our health is to eat more plants. Excessive consumption of animals creates a trifecta of trouble, including the deforestation that we've talked about, wet markets, meat processing factories that cause zoonotic disease outbreaks and spread, and health comorbidities, including diabetes, heart disease, lung disease, and obesities. These make us highly susceptible to death by COVID-19, and we've seen that in New York in spades. Research shows that a plant-based diet can significantly lower the risk of these conditions, and that's why a diet focused on plant foods is more crucial now than ever. And 6th and last, stand up and defend indigenous peoples. They are more at risk now than ever during the pandemic. Religious leaders may wish to help indigenous leaders around the world in the face of renewed threats, attacks, and incursions on their lands. There are many indigenous peoples' campaigns and movements that we can support. And finally, I'll say the engagement of moral, ethical, and spiritual voices in the rainforest crisis and the other environmental issues we've discussed today is one of the most important and encouraging and inspiring developments I've ever witnessed in my 30 years with the United Nations. And I believe the kind of powerful interfaith cooperation we see here today has the potential to literally turn the tide on these challenges. Please keep up the good work, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Charles, for such a powerful and informative presentation. And thank you also so much for the great work that you are doing, and especially with the Interfaith Rainforest Alliance. It's a wonderful honor and joy to ask Dr. Aza Kadam, the Secretary General of Religions for Peace and former Senior Advisor of Culture to UNFPA, as well as the founder and former coordinator of the United Nations Interagency Task Force on Religion, an extraordinary leader, and we're so happy to have you with us. Aza.
Thank you very much indeed, Sadhviji, and my warmest appreciation and gratitude to Pujya Swamiji and to the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance and Parmarth Niketan for bringing together this incredible cast of stakeholders, advisors, mentors, and very, very critical colleagues and partners. In this context, it's not simply a protocol thing to thank you, but it is actually part of the conversation that I believe needs to be held and upheld, which is that you bring together in this kind of a setting and in the work that you do systematically as the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance, you actually bring together the various stakeholders, the secular communities that are working on shared issues, the governmental, the intergovernmental in the form of the UN in this case, but also multiple faith communities. And this is precisely the formula for success, not just of an initiative, but for survival and for thriving on this particular planet. If each community was to do its absolute best, if the United Nations was to achieve its absolute best, if the government was to achieve its absolute best, if the Catholics as a whole were to achieve their absolute best, if every one of these mass entities were to do their best, it would still not be sufficient. What makes a difference is that we can work together, is that these various constituents can come and work together. And this is precisely the magic formula that we have to, as all the other speakers have noted, faith-based and non-faith-based, multilateral, governmental, non-governmental. Our task, the moral imperative that each one of us as individuals and institutions has is the imperative to work together. What COVID-19 has manifested is our collective vulnerability. No one is free and able to survive without the other. There's a collective vulnerability, therefore there is a quintessential interdependence between us as human beings. But COVID has, as others have mentioned on this particular day, what has to be upheld. Without our environment, we have no species to speak of, including ourselves. So therefore, there is a moral imperative to work together as institutions, as individuals, because we are part of the same planet, the loss of which would be the loss for all of us. It isn't a luxury, it isn't an afterthought, it's not something we're going to get to after we consider how we build our defense mechanisms and invest enormous amounts of money in our defense infrastructure. Actually, to save this planet and make it not just saved, but a thriving organism, in order to do so, we save ourselves as human beings. It's really quite as simple as that. It's not an option and it's not a luxury. It's an absolute imperative. And this has come out very clearly. What I have heard and learned from so many of you in the course of the last umpteen years is that we speak about the value and the strength of the faith communities. Indeed, compared to the realms of religion, the United Nations and all the other intergovernmental organizations in one place are a tiny speck, I repeat, compared to the realms of religion, religious institutions, religious leaders, religious communities, religious NGOs, compared to the realm, this universe of religion, the intergovernmental and the governmental entities are a drop, are a tiny little speck on the map of our universe. Therefore, the imperative is indeed this collaboration, which many of the UN actors and others have spoken to. I don't think we're at a stage where we need to justify collaboration, but we continue to be at the stage where we need to uphold and celebrate the incredible value of that collaboration. We saw and we heard, Audrey already upheld a living example of this, which is the collaboration around the interfaith rainforest. The rainforests are the lungs of our earth. COVID has shown us that when we can't breathe, we die. As human beings, not looking after our rainforest is not looking after the lungs of this earth. How do we expect to live? So therefore, it's not a luxury, it's not an option, it's an imperative that we work together. The Interfaith Rainforest Initiative, thanks to people like Charles and Fletcher and Audrey and Victor, is possible, has made remarkable developments because it has been quintessentially a partnership between so many different stakeholders and sectors. One lesson learned from the UN system and the UN's way of engaging is that, yes, in the United Nations system, there is now an understanding beyond doubt that engagement with faith actors is an absolute necessity and has very critical roles and contributions. However, we still need to impress upon the United Nations that the point that Charles just said, which is that we must work multi-faith, not only multi-faith, we must work, and this is already part of the UN Interagency Task Force guidelines for engaging with faith-based organizations, is that we must work multi-faith. We cannot work with only one religious community, no matter how massive, how impressive its size and its institutions. We must work multi-faith. The lesson number 2 that needs to be learned and enacted as per the example of many successful cases in the UN system is that we cannot silo the work of religion from the other work with other civil society stakeholders or political stakeholders. As we convene the religious, we must convene the various other stakeholders, which is again a best practice example upheld by the Interfaith Rainforest Initiative, which brings the multiple stakeholders around the table. That's why it's been able to make an impressive difference in the short time that it has existed. We work only with religious communities, it isn't enough. We work with all religious communities, it's fantastic, but still not enough. We work to strengthen civil society as a whole, we might just be getting there. We work with civil society in the private sector and the governments and the intergovernmental. That is humanity, that is the diversity, that is what humanity is, that particular diversity, and that's the magic formula again. From the faith-based and faith community side, I've seen remarkable work. I've been touched by such remarkable work and words. We still have a moral obligation to work together better. We've seen from the COVID response that we tend to silo our areas of work. We're each running to try to uphold the organization that we represent. In truth, we still have some ways to go, and I think it's honorable to acknowledge the vulnerabilities as we celebrate the achievements. We still have some ways to go as people of faith working in faith organizations to work together diligently, simultaneously, deliberately. It costs a lot more time and energy. It costs more resources, but it is not an option. It is an absolute necessity. We must work together systematically for one another. If we do so, we will not need to call upon a specific area of engagement with the indigenous, because faith, the indigenous is a community, is several communities of faith. If we were deliberate and diligent about working together, we would not need to make that call. We need to make that call because we're still siloed in our work in the faith communities. So it is important for us to take responsibility for the urgency of working diligently, systematically together at all times. There is no issue, there is absolutely no issue in our universe that is not dependent on one another. There is no reason whatsoever for us to work in our siloed organizational spaces. No matter how valuable and how intent and how noble our mission, there is no earthly reason, not to work together as people of faith, as communities of faith. There is no earthly reason not to work together systematically with other civil society actors, with governments and intergovernmental organizations, with the private sector. There is no earthly reason not to work together. And that's the heart of the message that we need to learn now. We've heard from the science, we've heard from the governmental, we've heard the knowledge, and we've heard from the heart of all the religious leaders and the spiritual leaders who have spoken on this call. Please hear me. There is no earthly reason not to work together. It is hard work. But as the verse in the Quran that I quoted earlier says, "Inna ma'al usri yusra," with every hardship, there is an opening, there is grace, there is mercy. Mercy happens when there is hardship. So yes, let's embrace the hardship of this particular call to work together to save our common planet, because we will not exist without it. So let's work together to save this common planet, because in that hardship is grace, is mercy, is the ability to make the change that we need to ensure that this planet is not only surviving. It's not only about surviving. It is about ensuring, in Maya Angelou's words, that this is a thriving space for all of the species that happen to live and breathe and give breath to one another. So I want to thank Jiwa. I want to uphold UNEP. I want to thank every single one of you on this call, because you are living, breathing examples of that attempt to be collaborative, but especially Sadhviji and Swamiji, because you have gone out of your way, and that is what is required. But you have gone out of your way to be inclusive of all. You have not prioritized one particular group or one particular community or one particular voice. And in that search and intentionality to be radically inclusive, you have exemplified precisely what we need to do together. So I bow to you in full deference to what you are each doing, and I thank you greatly for the privilege of being able to listen to you all today. Blessings.
Thank you so much, Aza, for so much, and especially for that beautiful union of passion and compassion, the brilliance, the wisdom, the clarity, and the implementable wisdom. And as you've made it so clear, it is an imperative to come together. And we've now had the information about why it's so important. We've had the inspiration for it. And now it's time, as you pointed out so clearly, for the implementation of that. And in any case, as we've heard from Bruce, and we've heard from Victor, and we've heard from other people speaking from both science and faith, the silos anyway are illusory. We already are one. And so why not embody that truth of our oneness and live that truth of our oneness, so that we may survive and thrive and provide a thriving Mother Earth today and tomorrow. So thank you so much for this, and for all of the extraordinary work and extraordinary leadership that you do on so many platforms, convening and guiding and inspiring. Thank you. And before we move into our third powerful segment, we have a very special, short, divine musical experience. We'll have more at the end of the webinar, but on the off chance that anyone had to leave early, I wanted to make sure that no one missed them. So our beloved Deva Pramal and Miten have agreed to play twice for us, once a short interlude here, and then once a longer, true, deep dive into the sacred music at the end. So I turn to them to carry us away in the river of music.
Namaste, friends.
Namaste.
Go lightly on this fragile earth. We are all strangers on this shore. Remember what your life is worth and what it was we came here for. And hidden deep within our hearts, there's a light that shines on everything. On the right and the wrong, on the weak and the strong, on the prayers and the songs that we sing. Go lightly on this precious land. We're part of everything that we see. We're the teardrop on the ocean. We're the wind that whispers in the trees. The wind that cries in holy rage at the deeds and the damage we have done. For how little care for the life that is there. Go lightly, my native son. Go lightly on this sacred earth. Go lightly on your way. You are among the ones who took a second birth. We are blessed more than words can ever say. Maybe sometimes your heart is broken, but it's nothing that love cannot repair. And with the gifts that you bring, remember one thing, it's the love for yourself that you share.
Thank you for bringing that special and sacred gift of not just music, but truly love through sound, love through music, connection through music, oneness through music. We look so forward to having more after this panel. It's a wonderful honor to have our most respected, most revered Maulana Mahmood Madniji, the Secretary General of Jamiat Ulema-e-Hind, one of India's largest and most renowned, prestigious Muslim organizations. And our Madni Saab is such an extraordinary leader of peace, of oneness, of togetherness, and also of water, sanitation, hygiene, and environmental protection. He and Puja Swamiji are beloved spiritual brothers together in so many initiatives for water, for sanitation, for hygiene, for tree plantation, for protection and preservation of the natural environment, as well as the peaceful environment within ourselves. So it's a great, great honor to have him with us. And just before he speaks, we have a 1-minute video clip of the Hariyali Yatra, the pilgrimage for greenery that he and Puja Swamiji took together, planting trees through the areas of the masjids, the mosques between Rishikesh and Delhi, together in heart, in hand, in love, in mission and message. So we'll have 1 minute of that video clip and then the words of our Madniji. And he will speak in the Hindi language, but it will be translated immediately afterwards by our Ganga Nandaniji.
Okay.
हमारे जज्बातों में, हमारे दिमागों में, हमारे दिलों में सदैव एक ही ख्याल रहता है कि किस तरह से इस वतन को चमन बनाए रखा जाए, किस तरह से इस वतन में अमन बना रहे।
हम एक साथ कर नहीं सकते, तो स्वामी जी कहते हैं हिफाजत तो एक साथ कर सकते हैं।
सारी संस्थाएं मिलकर, अगर हम मिलकर एक काम करेंगे कि हम पेड़ लगाएंगे और पेड़ लगाकर केवल अपने लिए नहीं बल्कि परिंदों के लिए भी सोचेंगे।
सबसे बड़ा वरदान है इस समय प्रदूषण से मुक्त बनाएं। सिंगल यूज प्लास्टिक जो जहर है उसको धीरे धीरे बंद करें।
और आइए अमन एकता हरियाली की इस यात्रा में हम इस वतन को हरा भरा बनाएं। हरियाली भी आएगी, खुशहाली भी आएगी।
I'll now request our most honorable Maulana Mahmood Madniji to share with us his beautiful words of wisdom and inspiration on World Environment Day. How can we be the solution to a healthy and sustainable Mother Earth and Mother Nature?
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। मेरे लिए ये ग्रेट अपॉर्चुनिटी है, बड़ा मौका है कि साध्वी जी ने, स्वामी जी ने पिछले कई सालों से जोड़ा हुआ है एनवायरनमेंट के लिए, दुनिया के लिए और ह्यूमैनिटी के लिए। नबी हमारे प्रॉफिट सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने ये फरमाया, कहा कि दुनिया तुम्हारे लिए बनाई गई, दुनिया खुलिकत, दुनिया को क्रिएट किया गया, क्रिएटर ने इस यूनिवर्स को क्रिएट किया है हमारे लिए, तो हमें उसको प्रोटेक्ट करना है, उसको यूज करना है, उसको अब्यूज नहीं करना है। तो स्वामी जी का मैं आभारी हूँ, शुक्रगुजार हूँ, थैंकफुल। कैसे मैं शुक्रिया अदा करूं कि उस काम में जो क्रिएटर ने इस यूनिवर्स को और हमारे क्रिएशन से हमारे ऊपर एक ड्यूटी लगाई है, तो स्वामी जी के इनिशिएट करने से हम लोग उस काम में लग गए। और उस काम में लगे तो दिखाने के लिए नहीं, कॉन्फ्रेंस करने के लिए नहीं, बल्कि ग्राउंड पर लोगों के एटीट्यूड को चेंज करने के लिए, लोगों को ये बताने के लिए कि वजू जैसी इबादत, हर नमाज के लिए हमारे पास जरूरी है कि हम वजू करेंगे, कुछ चीजों को धोना जरूरी है, साफ करना जरूरी है, और अगर हम ये नहीं करेंगे तो हमारी नमाज नहीं होगी। तो नमाज भी इबादत है और वजू भी इबादत है, से एवोल्यूशन बोलते हैं बीच में। ये दोनों चीजें इबादत हैं, लेकिन ये कहा गया कि इसमें भी जो पानी की एक बूंद, एक ड्रॉप वाटर अगर आपने वेस्ट किया और उसको प्रॉपर यूज नहीं किया, पानी को जितना यूज करना है मिनिमम उतने से काम नहीं चलाया, तो आपको उसका हिसाब देना पड़ेगा। पानी जैसी लोग उसे छोटी चीज समझते हैं, पर वो तो अभी दुनिया के लिए क्राइसिस बन गई। जब दुनिया में उसका कोई क्राइसिस नहीं था, तो ये हमें ऑर्डर दिया गया कि एक ड्रॉप का भी आपको हिसाब देना पड़ेगा। तो मैं, बहुत सारी बातें हो गई हर एंगल से, लोगों ने मुझसे पहले, ज्यादा काबिल लोगों ने इसके ऊपर बहुत अच्छे से डिफरेंट पॉइंट्स को रखा है। हमारी जनरेशन्स के लिए क्या होगा, आज की दुनिया कैसी होगी, अब से 50 साल बाद की दुनिया कैसी होगी, 100 साल के बाद की दुनिया कैसी होगी। और जैसे इस एनवायरनमेंट को, इस यूनिवर्स को बचाना जरूरी है, तो यूनिवर्स में बसने वाली जो मखलूक है, जिसको भी पैदा किया गया है, वो कोई भी हो, वो हमारे प्रोफेट मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने कहा कि वो तो तुम्हारे अल्लाह की कुंबा है, फैमिली। हर पैदा होने वाली चीज, हर मखलूक अल्लाह की फैमिली, और उस फैमिली को बचाना हमारी और आपकी, सब लोगों की ड्यूटी है। तो सारे लोग जमा हुए हैं और जमा होने की कोशिश चल रही है। हम लोगों ने ये नियत करी है कि स्वामी जी के नेतृत्व में, उनकी लीडरशिप में, पिछले साल कुछ 1 लाख पेड़ लगाने का हम लोगों ने टारगेट सेट किया था। अब पता नहीं खुलेगा या नहीं खुलेगा, लेकिन आज सुबह भी स्वामी जी से बात हो रही थी, तो मैंने कहा कि 1 मिलियन पेड़ लगाने का हम लोग निश्चय करें, इरादा करें, और फिर क्रिएट करने वाले से दुआ मांगेंगे, प्रार्थना करेंगे, उसके सामने सर झुकाएंगे और कहेंगे कि इस इरादे को, हमारे इस निर्णय को आप ही पूरा करवाने वाले हैं, और कोशिश करेंगे, ताकत लगाएंगे इसके ऊपर, अब जो भी हो जाए। तो मैं बहुत शुक्रिया, अगेन एक मरतबा फिर शुक्रिया अदा करता हूँ सब लोगों का, और खासतौर से स्वामी जी का, साध्वी जी का। मुझे ये अपॉर्चुनिटी मिली है आप लोगों के बीच में आने की, और मिलजुल के काम करेंगे आपके नेतृत्व में, लीडरशिप में, तो आगे भी हम लोग कुछ सेवा कर सकेंगे क्रिएट करने वाले की, और जिन लोगों को क्रिएट किया गया है उन लोगों के साथ। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, धन्यवाद।
So wonderful. Just wanted to check if my audio is working. But just a quick translation. So we've just been joined by our beloved Shakti, Dr. Sudita Narayanji, who is the head of the Center of Science and Environment and she will be speaking very soon. Just a quick translation of most respected and Adani Madni Sahab's beautiful, beautiful message here, short but very, very powerful. He was just saying that he really believes in working on the ground to change behaviors. And he was speaking about wazu, which is the purification that happens before you do the worship. And how that purification process is just as important as the actual worship. And he said that the importance given on even every single drop being used in that wazu, in that purification process, one is held accountable for that. And he said that that is really crucial as we move forward on Environment Day, to take into account that every single part of creation is part of the divine creator. He says all of creation is part of Allah's family. And he said that last year we had pledged to plant 1 lakh trees. And this year we pledged to plant 1 million trees. And he is so looking forward to working together, Jamiyat Ulma Hind with Global Interfaith Wash Alliance, to make this 1 million tree plantation to fruition in the coming months. So thank you so, so much, respected Madni Saab, for this pledge and for your work and for being together with us to make the world a better place. And with that also, I'd like to ask Sadhviji to introduce and welcome Dr. Sunita Narayanji. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to Ganga Nandani-ji, our Global Interfaith WASH Alliance Director of Project Implementation and Communication, for a beautiful and succinct translation of our Honorable Madni-ji's beautiful words and his pledge and commitment. And as you mentioned, we've just been joined by Dr. Sunita Narayan, the Director General of the Center for Science and the Environment, one of India's most premier and powerful and prestigious centers working for that intersection of science to protect and preserve the natural world. She is an incredible leader, scientist, Shakti, that divine feminine power of creation, of sustenance, of preservation for the planet. So it's a great honor to have her with us as we weave together the threads of science and spirituality. And as we've already spoken, they actually are much more overlapping than separate. So it's great to have you with us, Sunita ji, and we'll request you to please share with us your words.
Thank you, Sadhviji, and thank you, Swamiji, for organizing such a beautiful dialogue, such a beautiful discourse. I heard some parts of it, and it is very clear to me that the world, there is really no distinction anymore between science and faith. And I think this is really what should bring us together. We are in a very, very difficult time in the world. There is no doubt that we are facing a kind of disruption that we never thought was even possible. And this disruption that we are faced with today has the worst impact on the very poor in our world. And I think that face of the devastation is something that we must always keep in mind. I mean, for me and for most of us in India, the images of workers going back, leaving our cities, walking for miles to go back to their villages was heartbreaking. And it showed us clearly that the scale of the disruption and what that has done to the livelihoods of the very poor. But it's also coming at a time when we are seeing cyclone after cyclone batter this country. We've had 2 cyclones in this last 15 days. Another one that is coming in the next 10 days, going to hit the eastern coast. We have locust attacks happening in Rajasthan, in Gujarat, devastating the fields of farmers, with all linked to climate change. The fact of the matter is, whether it is cyclone or the locust attack, there is enough scientific evidence now to say clearly that this is linked to climate change. You are seeing intensification of cyclones, increased frequency of cyclone because of the changed temperature between the land and the ocean. You're seeing rapidification of cyclones becoming more and more unpredictable and so difficult and huge force with which they hit. The locust attacks that we are seeing in Rajasthan, Gujarat, the north, the Horn of Africa, countries are being ravaged both by war, by strife, by poverty, and now by locust attack. And that's happening also because of unseasonal rainfall that we saw in the Arabian Peninsula, and the creation of these breeding grounds for locusts. And what we need to remember, and I think that's really where we are all in it together, we need to remember 3 things. And I very much heard this in everybody's conversation, and I'm reiterating it. 3 things. 1, we have lost too much time. We are today actually suffering the consequences of the years of procrastination and the time that we have lost. We have built an inequitable society, which means that the impact of climate change or the impact of the coronavirus is worse, whether it is the blacks in America or the poor in India. The fact is they are hit doubly. They are hit when the virus hits because they are more prone to infection, and they are hit because of the loss of livelihoods. So we have built a highly inequitable society. We have also built cities where people don't have the ability to wash their hands, to have good sanitation, to be able to have the immunity they need so that this contagion doesn't get to them. And that's part of the crisis of environment. It's the crisis of the way we have done development till now. That's the first big lesson that we need to take back, that we have lost so much time. And we have lost it because of the arrogance that we have always believed that we can conquer nature. And that brings me to the second point. The second point very clearly is that we have today a dystopian relationship with nature. There should be no doubt about this. The fact is the virus is mutating because of the fact that we have gone into the habitats of animals. And so the virus mutates from the wild to the humans. But it's also mutating because of the industrial food system that we have built, which makes animal populations more vulnerable. We feed them antibiotics. We create a machine to build our food, to grow our food, to manufacture our food. And that is making us much more vulnerable. And the third and the final point I want to make, Sadhviji, is what climate change and the virus tell us, and there should be no doubt about this. We live in an interdependent, interconnected world. The locust, the virus, air pollution, or climate change, they know no boundaries. And it's important, therefore, to build global leadership. And I can only say, and I can say this because I am with friends, and I hope you don't, I think we could not have chosen the worst, this is the worst time in the world to have the need for global leadership, because we just don't have it today. And so we need to really talk about it, build it. We have to have global leadership, because we cannot have weak global institutions. We cannot have selfish global leaders in a time when the world has to come together. And that's where faith and science must work. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sunitha ji, for taking the time to be with us tonight and to share your really clear vision of the problems, the solutions, and the intersection between all of these different aspects. And you're right, as the locusts came into India after the virus started, and then after the cyclone and after the fires, it started to feel like we were in a whole new plagues situation, wondering how many of these plagues is the universe going to send until we really wake up. And yes, you're absolutely right. They do not discriminate. So whether it's any of the ones you've mentioned, or whether it's any of those that we've all been working on prior to that, lack of water, diarrhea, cholera, all of the illnesses and diseases that are impacting people today, they don't discriminate. And so in our response to it, it has to be a response together. There can't be a Hindu answer and a Muslim answer and a Christian answer and a Sikh answer and a Buddhist answer and a Jewish answer. There have to be one truth that we all share with our own flavor and in our own languages and with quotations from our own scriptures, but it's one truth and one answer. And thank you so much for elucidating that so clearly. And especially thank you for the great work that you are doing. And I know we were recently together in an event focused on education. And I bring it up here because that leadership that you speak about is a leadership that's going to come out of the education systems that we implement. And so thank you also for the great leadership that CSE under your direction and guidance is doing to ensure that our education systems are ones that are grooming, educating, giving culture and real truth and teaching to the students who will become the leaders of today and tomorrow. We have with us Shri Rajwant Singh Ji, who is the founder of Sikh, an organization of the Sikh Dharma that is dedicated to protection and preservation of the environment and the ecology. And he's doing great work with Sikh and with Sikh Dharma International and with the whole space and place where Dharma and action intersect. So it's a great honor, and thank you for being with us so patiently as we run so far over time. And we really look forward to your words of wisdom.
Well, thank you so much, Swamiji and Sadhviji, and all the esteemed guests from all over the world. And we are here in Washington, D.C., amidst a major crisis that America is facing in terms of pandemic, as well as this whole issue of racial injustice in the law enforcement agencies and throughout the society, how people are treated, especially people of color and the African American community. So while we are reflecting on these issues, we are inspired by the words of wisdom coming from all of you, from scientists, esteemed person like Bruce Lipton and the friends from UN and many of the faith leaders. From the Sikh perspective, I bring greetings from the entire Sikh family. And also all the biodiversity life that we have witnessed in the last 1 year, that we have developed a relationship in 145 forests that we have planted in India, in various parts of India. And these forests, we are totally surprised that within 6 months, we start seeing totally a new sort of life coming back. The birds which have not been seen, they start coming back. And you start seeing bees and butterflies. And it's just amazing. And it does not take that much time to really bring back the life that we all long for and the biodiversity that we all fighting for. So these mini forests that have been planted, we have developed a formula that for just $1,000, you can plant a forest of 550 trees of native species. And we have identified close to 92 species in the northern India, which need to be brought back. And we have started a nursery, which is bringing back these trees. They invite this biodiversity themselves. We don't have to do anything. And we have, if these have become a lab for anyone to come, and they are all placed on Google Map. If you're traveling to Gujarat or Maharashtra or to Rajasthan or Haryana or to Delhi or in Punjab, you will find these Guru Nanak sacred forests. They have named after the founder of the Sikh faith, Guru Nanak, whose 550th birth anniversary we were celebrating. And I will just end by his words of wisdom in a very beautiful prayer in which he calls us all to see what kind of relationship that we need to have with Mother Nature. So let me sing, if you all permit me. Pavan Guru Pani Pita Mata Tarit Mahat Mata Tarit Mahat Divas Raat Doe Dai Daya Khile Sagal Jagat Mata Tarit Mahat Mata Tarit Mahat. He says the air is the teacher, because just as a teacher gives opportunity to each student to grow and to thrive, similarly, air gives us the opportunity to breathe life and experience life and to really discover who we are. And water is the father. That's where the life has started. And the mother is the earth. So just as we will not dishonor our father, our mother, our teacher, why would we dishonor these gifts of nature which have been given to us by our creator? And another line in which Guru Nanak, the founder of the Sikh faith, again says, Jah jah dekha teh jyot tumari, tera roop ki neha, ikat roop fire parchanna, koi na kiski jai. That wherever I see your light, O God, and within each species that I witness, you are hidden in them. But I also see that neither one of them is just like the other one. So there is so much diversity. Andaj jera setaj utpuj tere kite janta. That whether the life form which has been born from the eggs or from body, from womb, or from vegetation, or from water, it is all God's creation. But then the further sixth scripture says, Dekh fool phule ahang tyag tyage. That there is a spring, there is a beautiful creation out there, but we are not able to witness that. We cannot form relationship because of our ego. Ahang tyag tyage. Unless we give up our ego and this need to control things around, we will not be able to witness the real biodiversity, the real life that is inviting us all. And at the end, again, his word says, चंगियाइयां बुराइयां वाचे धर्म दूर करमी आपो अपनी के नेड़े के दूर. Because of our actions, it is only our actions which determines whether we are closer to our creator, whether we are closer to our creation, or we are further away. So this day of biodiversity really should shake us all, that we need to really align ourselves to the real purpose of why we are here, what we are doing in this planet. And we already know that there is nothing around us that we can go anywhere else. This is the only Earth. We don't have to go and take a flight and become an astrophysicist to go thousands of miles away from the Earth and see we are all one. We can discover that oneness right here amidst us all. These religious labels are just an artificial label. We are all one family. Thank you so much. May God bless us all and give us the wisdom to continue on our path. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rajwantji. And as our final speaker this evening, and then we have a couple of prayers and more beautiful divine music by Deva, Pramal, and Miten. But our final speaker, we have Dr. Satish Kumar, who is himself in one being a synthesis of science and spirituality. He's the editor of the Resurgence and Ecology magazine, a very, very renowned and prestigious magazine on science and ecology out of London. He's also one of the founders of the Schumacher College outside of London in England, one of the very unique high-level educational institutions that actually gives degrees in things like earth stewardship. What does it really mean to be a steward of the earth? But he also has been a faith leader and has led barefoot marches for peace across the world. And unfortunately, at this time of COVID, at home, alone, without the technology, he wasn't able to actually get live with us, but he did have someone come in and do a recorded short message of his. And he's such an extraordinary visionary and leader and mentor that we wanted to show his short video message as well. He's deeply inspiring. So we will have a short message from Satishji, and actually his full video and another statement of his will be made available online for those who would like to see the video in its entirety and to read his full statement as well.
At the moment, humanity appears to be at war with nature. The way we are destroying our rainforests, the way we are polluting our oceans with ghastly plastic, the way we are poisoning our soil with chemicals and fertilizers and pesticides and herbicides, the way we are polluting our environment. It's as if we are at war with nature. So we have to make peace with nature, peace with our precious planet Earth, peace with the environment. And when we make peace with nature, we realize that we are nature. Nature out there, the trees and the birds and the animals and the oceans and the mountains and the rivers and the forests, they are all part of us. We are made of the same elements. We are made of earth, air, fire, water, and consciousness. Nature is conscious. Trees are alive. This planet Earth is a living being. And therefore, we cannot think that humans are something special. So humans can do what they like to nature.
Yes.
We can pollute the environment. We can destroy the rainforest. We can put animals in factory farms and treat them as if they have no life, they have no consciousness, they have no soul, they have no spirit. So making peace with nature is the most important, I would say, paramount challenge and a paramount task of humanity at this moment. And religions have to take greater responsibility. And I am delighted to say that many of our great religious leaders are already upholding the importance of natural world. Pope Francis has come out with in no uncertain terms, proclaiming our dependence on the planet Earth. We are all connected. We are all interdependent. We are all interrelated. And therefore, if we destroy planet Earth, if we destroy nature, if we pollute our air and pollute our environment and pollute our oceans and waste our resources, that is going to come back to us. This is why we are facing global warming and climate change, and this pollution and the carbon emission in the environment is coming back to hurt us. So we are one. We are members of one earth community, and all our animals in the forest, in the wild, are our brothers and sisters. And the birds flying in the sky are our brothers and sisters. We have to see Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The whole earth is our family, earth community. We are members of this earth community. So when we can have this kind of large-heartedness, large-mindedness, and we can be inclusive and be compassionate, be kind, be generous, and be loving to all living beings, then we can celebrate our spirituality and our religion. Love was a principle of personal relationship. But now we have to, in the age of ecology, consider that we have to love nature. We have to love our planet Earth. Planet Earth loves us. The earth loves us. Our Gaia, the goddess of the earth, loves us. We are the children of the earth. In Sanskrit, we say, Mata Bhumi, Putro Ham Prithivya. The Bhumi, the Mother Earth, is my mother. And I am the child of this Mother Earth. If we have that consciousness, then how can we hurt and damage and destroy our Mother Earth? How can we override the capacity of our Mother Earth? So we have to be conscious, we have to be aware, and we have to be humble. Humility is the most important quality of human beings. The word human and humility come from the same Latin root, to be humble. And actually, the name for the soil is also same, humus. And humus in the soil, humus soil is humble because it always stays under our feet and never on our head. And therefore, we have to respect soil, and we have to be soil, and we have to be humble. So this idea that human beings are superior to all other natural beings, and therefore we can do to nature as we like, what we like, and treat it badly and disrespectfully, this arrogance of human beings has to be addressed. And this arrogance has to be forgotten or given up. And we have to be humble, and with our humility, we celebrate this wonderful gift of the universe.
So that was a clip of Satishji's full message, but we will make his full video and statement available online. And I'd now, as we come to the concluding part, I'd like to come back to Rajwant Singh Ji to lead us in the Sikh prayer, as we've been having these beautiful 1-minute calls to the divine, calls of the divine from the different faith traditions, some in the beginning, some in the middle, and some at the conclusion. I'd like to come back to him for the prayer from Sikh Dharm. And after that, we will have our Reverend Victor Kazanjan lead the prayer from the Christian faith tradition.
Thank you so much. देख फूल 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 देख फूल 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 अहम त्याग त्याग चरण कमल पागे तुम मिलो प्रभु सुपागे हर चेत मान मेरे देख फूल 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 देख फूल सगन बास कूले एक रहे सुख कठूले बसंत रुत आई प्रफुल्लता रहे देख फूल 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 देख फूल. Oh, brothers and sisters, the entire creation is singing God's praise. Just look around. Everywhere you can see God's presence. Give up your ego and you can connect with this beauty which has been given to you as a gift. Charan Kamal Page, Tum Milo Prabh Supage. That the lotus feet of God's presence is around us, is inviting us. That we are the fortunate ones to experience this and give meaning and find meaning in these. Sagan Vas Phule, Ik Rahe Sukh Phule. That those who connect themselves with this creation blossom themselves, and those who stay away, they become dry and they become like a stone-like existence. So this invitation by the creation is always inviting us to connect. May God bless us all to really become one with creation, one with nature, one with each other, one with everything around us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And on to our Reverend Victor Kazanjan.
We walk side by side upon this earth, fellow travelers on life's pathways. I speak of being awakened to the wonder and mystery of the world using words that reflect my perspective, my window to the divine, the one whom I call my Lord and my God, Jesus, the risen Christ. You too speak of being awakened to the wonder and mystery of the world using words that reflect your window onto the divine through the teachings of the Buddha, Baha'u'llah, of Lord Mahavir, of Guru Nanak, of Zoroaster, of the Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him. Teachings from the Torah, the Tao, and the Vedas. Teachings from poets and prophets, writers and sages. Teachings from the earth herself. As I hear you speak, as I look into your eyes, I see God. I feel God. I experience God in you, not just a partial reflection of my Christian God, but the Creator, the Great Spirit, the force of life and love in you. I am aware that I am one among many, and that we are part of the magnificent creation in which we all live and move and have our being. Blessed be Mother Earth. Blessed be Father Sky. Blessed be the birds of the air and the animals of the earth, the flora and the fauna. Blessed be all that was and is and will be in this universe of life. And may we discover the truth that all is connected, that separation is illusion, that there is no me without you, that this tree and this flower and this running river and all manner of living creatures are my sisters and my brothers. Let us unite to use our combined resources only for nonviolent, compassionate action, to awaken to our deepest truths, and to manifest love and justice among all life in our Earth community. Amen.
Thank you so much, Reverend Victor. And it's amazing. We are now at 3 hours of this event, and it feels on some level like it's just begun. It feels so fresh, so alive, and so deeply full. And it's been such an extraordinary time together to realize those truths spoken by so many different people from so many different walks of life, so many different languages and traditions. And in many ways, COVID is an emergency. It's an absolutely critical emergency. And it's been an opportunity for us to emerge and see, to emerge from the cocoons of who we are, the cocoons of what we think, the cocoons of our separate ways of living and being, the cocoons of our ignorance, of our darkness, to emerge from those and to really see, to see the truth, to see the oneness, to see the togetherness. And so from an emergency into this opportunity to really emerge and see our oneness. And we've had so much incredible wisdom and really implementable ideas and suggestions, possibilities and imperatives over the last 3 hours of how each of us individually, but together as one, needs to walk together and to work together. Whether it's planting trees, as our Maulana Madniji said so beautifully, how together his organization, our Global Interfaith Wash Alliance, planted 100,000 trees last year, this year committed to 1 million. Whether it's that, whether it's our commitment to abate climate change, whether it's our commitment to prevent that 6th great extinction, our commitment to protect and preserve the biodiversity, these species that are going extinct at a terrifying and tragic rate. Whatever that commitment is, because each of us, of course, has different tools, different abilities, different resources, different experience, different expertise, but whatever it may be, that opportunity, that invitation, and that imperative to do it together and to know that we aren't separate. We are one with God, one with each other, one with the Creator, one with the creation. So thank you all so much. And Puja Swamiji will bless us with a few closing words, and we will then have the gift of melting and merging into the infinite ocean of oneness, truth, light, unity, upliftment, enlightenment through our beloveds, Deva Premal and Matan. And now to Puja Swamiji for the closing blessing.
I'm so glad to see you all today. It has been so beautiful to listen to all of the amazing speakers on this panel. I thank our partners, UNICEF, United Nations, and United Nations Environment Program, WSSC, URI, Religions for Peace, the Parliament of World Religions, Interfaith, Rainforest Initiative, and so many others. In closing, I want to sing one beautiful 2 lines, which is in Hinduism, said so beautifully in Sanskrit in our ancient scriptures. Mata bhumi putroham prithivya. Mata bhumi putroham prithivya. Mata bhumi putroham prithivya. Mata bhumi putroham prithivya. The earth is our mother and we are her children. If the earth is our mother and our home, then we must take care of her. There can be plan A and plan B, but there is no planet B. We have only one planet. So we must take care of it. Must take care of it. And the mantra to take care of it is only one. As Aja also again and again said it, and several other leaders. Kittigawa also said it. Our Victor also said it. Maulana ji also said the same thing, that only one thing, one mantra of the 21st century can be a magic mantra, the mantra of togetherness, the mantra of oneness, the mantra of allness, the mantra of inclusiveness. And the time has come, and time is now. Corona has shown us, let us work together, let us be together. In Indian scriptures, as I said earlier also, there's a beautiful mantra, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, means the whole world is one family. The world is a parivar, means one family, not a bazaar, not a marketplace. When we think of the world as a bazaar, everything and everyone is an object. It is a buy and sell, win and lose in the marketplace. It is based on competition. But when we think of the world as a parivar, a family, then it is cooperation. It's not competition. In a family, everyone shares and cares. Everyone feeds each other and takes care of each other. I strongly believe that Corona has come as an ambassador for our environment. Therefore, let us reflect on the lesson we have learned from COVID-19. It means the way we were living was the problem. Let us be the solution and change our lifestyles, as well as reflect on our values, our morals. Let us have new normals. Corona has taught us that life is not to have more or accumulate more or consume more. It is really about being more and living more. And this living is giving, and the giving is living. This harmony with ourselves and our planet is also true living. Every action to reduce our carbon and water footprints counts. There are countless ways we can protect our environment, but the time for climate action is now. The nature of our future depends. The nature of our future depends on the nature of our future. The three things, very important: culture, nature, and future. Let us protect our culture. Let us protect our nature, and then only we can protect our future. This is the only way, and that we can do it together. That we can do when we are connected. That we can do when we are interconnected. And let us preserve our culture in order to protect our future, not our individual culture, but our global culture of humanity, of oneness, of inclusiveness and allness. Let us pledge to join hands and hearts from this very moment to make not just today, but every day and every moment dedicated and devoted to environmental preservation and protection. Let us be together. Thank you, and thank you being here. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, and also our on-screen partners. I wanted to just also thank our off-screen partners, Uplift, Unify, the Shift Network. So many people have come together on screen and off screen to make this a great success, and especially before our beautiful music, to our incredible night and day 24/7 Seva team here at Parmarth Niketan, our beloved Ganga Nandini, Shreya, Krupali, Rohan, Marjorie, Karuna, Flavia, Trish, the whole incredible team, Sandeep, Sagar, everybody who's been here behind the scenes making sure that everything works. A great, great, great gratitude and love and social distance maintaining hug to all of them for their beautiful, beautiful seva. And now it's with great joy that we turn back to our beloved Deva Pramal and Matan.
So we just heard that we weren't heard so well, so I hope you can hear us. Maybe give us a little, because I changed the setting and I just want to make sure that yeah, it's okay.
You join us with the mantra Om. We will sing this beautiful Buddhist healing mantra. Please join us with the mantra Om Vidya.
Ratsa Samudgate Soha. Mahabekanze Ratsa Samudgate Soha. Diatao Bekanze Bekanze Mahabekanze Ratsa Samudgate Soha. Diatao Bekanze Bekanze Mahabekanze Ratsa Samudgate Soha. Diatao Bekanze Bekanze Mahabekanze Ratsa Samudgate Soha. Samudgate Soha. Teata Bekanze Bekanze Mahabekanze Ratsa Samudgate Soha. Teata Bekanze Bekanze Mahabekanze Ratsa Samudgate Soha. Teata Bekanze Bekanze Mahabekanze Ratsa Samudgate Soha. Mahabekanze Ratsa Samudgate Soha. Beatao Bekanze Bekanze Mahabekanze Ratsa Samudgate Soha. Shamno Mitra Shamarana Shamno Bhavid Varimam Shamna Indro Brahaspati Shamno Vishnu Rukrama Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayu Twamiva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Twamiva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadisyami Ritam Vadisyami Satyam Vadisyami Tanmam Avatu Tatvaktaram Avatu Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Namaste.
In that space of silence, in that space of fullness and in that space of gratitude, in that space of oneness. Have a beautiful, beautiful day for those of you for whom it is beginning. Beautiful evening for those of us here in India. And thank you all so much for being together with us in this World Environment Day gathering. It was beautiful and a gift to be together with you all. Thank you.